Hello, everybody, and a happy 2019, and welcome again to Nerd of the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I am your host, Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how are you doing? How have you been?
I am alive. It has been a time, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a time.
The post-holiday recovery took a bit longer than it normally does, huh?
It's not the post-holiday recovery. It's the everything after the holidays that there's been a lot of drama. A lot of drama. We don't need to go into it.
Yeah, all right. Okay, understood. And Skyblaze, how have you been? How was your?
Christmas was fine. New Year was pretty good. I survived the convention I helped run. And Kingdom Hearts is out, so life is good.
Yeah, I've been hopping back and forth between that and Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I'm absolutely loving. Or at least that's what I'm doing when I'm not when I haven't been busy fucking unpacking boxes because I've been buried in moving boxes because I moved into a new house over the holidays. That's why it took so long for us to come back, because I couldn't find my fucking microphone. I don't understand why it was packed in with my dishware, but that's where it was. And so, but now I found it. I'm all unpacked and I'm in my nice little house. Although I hesitate to call it a house because the whole thing is like the size of a studio apartment. So it's really more of a shack. Maybe a shed be a little more appropriate. I don't know. But yeah, if it were built with logs, I'd call it a cabin. You know, nice log cabin.
Whereas I live in a castle.
You literally do. It's so unfair.
I do. It's great.
Yes. So yeah, we've got a really we're glad to be back. It's new year, new set of shows, and we are going to be kicking things off with something that we wanted to discuss when it came out back in November, December, but for circumstances we wound up missing out on it, and that's the new She-Ra show on Netflix, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, but of course there is prestige to follow, so we're going to begin, as always, with Ask a Geek. This one is from Lacey, and she asked, what are our thoughts on the new Doctor Who series?
I can sum this up by going, squeeze! Just extend that for about a week and a half. And you'll get the general idea. First of all, Jodie as the Doctor is amazing. Second of all, there's been a significant number of episodes set in my home city. In fact, the first episode of this season, one shot was directly when they were driving up the road in the police van. That was directly outside of my flat complex.
Really?
And in another shot, there was a house I used to live in. And I was like, I used to live there. And the line about the new sonic screwdriver being made with Sheffield steel made me squeal really hard. I've been really enjoying it. I think it's really refreshed the series in a way that we've not really seen since the revival started in 2005. Because RTD and Moffat's styles were so similar, it didn't really feel like it changed that much. This has been a real breath of fresh air to me.
And what's funny is, of course, for those who don't know, the current showrunner is Chris Chibnall, who prior to this series, his name would provoke an almost Pavlovian reaction in Skyblaze of utter disgust.
I have one word, and that is Cyberwoman, for those that have seen Torchwood.
Yeah.
So, but I guess he's impressed you with this series so far.
He's doing a good job so far. I'm not entirely prepared to take back everything he's said about it. I mean, some of his previous work has been utter garbage. I refer you once again to Cyberwoman. But the stuff that has been done this season has been high quality in general.
I haven't seen any of the new season myself. I actually fell out of Doctor Who at the start of, I think it was Capaldi's second season. Like the last episode that I clearly remember watching is the one where Davros was dying, and was kind of hopping back and forth between him and the Doctor having a conversation, and the Doctor angsting over whether or not to save a young Davros. Or as I call it, the baby Hitler problem.
I've heard a lot of good things about this season. So I mean, the only reason I haven't watched it is because I'm one of those people who's like, I don't like to leave gaps in my watch history. So I have to tear my way through the rest of Capaldi's seasons before I can get to Jodie Whittaker's.
Hellbent and Heaven Sent from Capaldi's final season are very good.
So I've heard. Although I've had to fend people off trying to give me spoilers about them. So, and let's see here now. Next question here. This one comes from Ryan, and he has addressed it to me, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up to you, Skyblaze, since you've been playing it too. He asks, what are our thoughts on Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee? And, I think it's quite adorable. Okay. Me, I mean, I was going to pick it up anyway because, when it comes to Nintendo and Pokemon games, I'm a corporate whore. I'll spread my legs for anything from the House of Mario. But I was actually surprised by how much I've actually really enjoyed Let's Go Pikachu. Like, I knew I was going to like it, but I've been surprised by how much I've enjoyed it. For those who haven't played it and are kind of still on the fence, if I were to sum it up, I would sum it up as baby's first Pokemon, but in the absolute best way possible. Because one of the things that is really intimidating about the core series of games, aside from just the number of Pokemon there are to collect, is the metagame. You have people going on about, IVs and EVs and breeding and natures and held items and all this other stuff that, can be really intimidating to a newcomer. And when you get into Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, all of that is pretty much stripped away. And it's everything's kind of stripped down to just the basic core of catching Pokemon, battling, and it's a nice way to ease yourself into the Pokemon franchise if you've never played it before. I also think it's really neat that if you've got a Pokeball Plus, that you can play this game with one hand. Well, hello there. And I'm really surprised by how easy it is to use the Pokeball Plus to play this game. The whole thing, there's literally just two buttons on it. You've got where the little button on the Pokeball would be. That's actually the control stick, and if you press down on that, that's your A button. And then there's a button on top of the Pokeball that if you press that, that's your B button. And if you need anything else, you just shake it. And I love how intuitive this is. My one complaint that I have about using the Pokeball Plus as a controller is that I have to continuously readjust my grip on it, because it just it winds up rotating in my hand, going from between moving around in the world and trying to catch things. I have to continuously readjust my grip. My biggest complaint as far as the game itself is that you kind of have to approach it on its own terms. You can't really you can't use a Pro controller to play it. You have to use either the one Joy-Con or the Pokeball Plus. So it's not like you can use both the Joy-Cons or a Pro controller if you want to play it. And then because of that, if you're using the Pokeball Plus, it's kind of irritating if you want to quit out of the game, because there's no home button on the Pokeball Plus, so you've got to actually take the Joy-Con off of the console and use that to go to the home screen to close out. So, and also, taking Pokemon for a stroll is broken as all hell. I took a level 5 Nidoran male out on a stroll with me, and then I went out looking at a townhouse that day, and I had the thing clipped to my belt. And by the time I got home and put it back in the game, it had gained like 15 levels. So strolling is broken as hell. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Pokemon Let's Go. So Skyblaze, what about you? How are you enjoying?
I think it's adorable. I've not played a huge amount of Pokemon. I've only really played a lot since X and Y. So I've played through X and Y, and I've played Sun and Moon. But I've been playing and streaming it with Tony, my husband, and we've been having a really good time doing that. It's basically a remake of Red and Green, but there's enough new stuff in it and enough stuff that's been changed up that it makes it interesting for Tony, who has played through nearly all of the originals, I think. And for me, because it's so cute, and playing and interacting with Pikachu is really adorable. And yeah, the various little the actions that you can do with the Pokemon, talking to them, interacting with them, and they give you gifts, and it's all really, really, really cute and adorable, and I love it.
Who's your favorite to go walking around with?
At the moment, I've got a Growlithe who's following me around.
I can't wait until I get a Snorlax. I'm gonna have him walk around with him, because I don't know if you've ever seen the gift that's been floating around of it, but Snorlax has a pimp walk. He just struts around, and every time while you're just clinging to his belly, Totoro style, and every time I see that, I can't help but think of the Ultra PP scene from Invader Zim with the giant hamster strutting down the city while Barry White is singing, "Yeah, Ultra PP." So yeah, I'm gonna have like a twangy guitar soundtrack playing every time I walk around with Snorlax.
Tony insisted on calling our Geodude the Dude. Because of course he did.
Does the dude abide?
Apparently so.
You don't get that, do you?
I do get the joke, yeah. I was just trying to think of an appropriate response, but it's 11:45 and I'm tired.
Okay, but yeah, I definitely would recommend Pokemon Let's Go to anyone who's looking to get into the Pokemon series for the first time. And I'd also recommend it to people who've been playing Pokemon for a while. It's a fun little game. Really enjoying it. And if this is, I'm kind of hoping that that this isn't going to overtake the core series, although I doubt it will. But if what I'm seeing is any indication, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the next core series game next year. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And let's see here now. One last question here for all of us. Let's see if we can find a good one. All right, here's a good one. This one here comes from Peter, and he asked if there's anything from this year that we missed that we would have liked to have done an episode about. So, Kat, let's start with you. What's something that we didn't talk about this year that you would have liked to have done an episode about if we'd had the time and opportunity?
Gosh, we had meant to do did we do a Fantastic Beasts episode? Or did we end up skipping it just due to me being sick?
Yeah, we were going to do a Fantastic Beast episode, but then I had to go into the far plane to retrieve you because you had died.
Yeah, I really was very sick for several weeks. And it was like right as all the holidays were happening, so it was like impossible to reschedule. So I wish we had talked about that, because there was a lot to unpack with that film. And it's going to be crazy for future films.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot to that film, and not necessarily in the best way.
Right, and I still really enjoyed it, but it would have been nice to talk about because it had some serious problems. But other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, because part of it is that holy crap, guys, we are super tapped out on any given day to come up with ideas for more episodes, because we've been doing this show for so long. Which is a little plug here. If you ever want us to talk about something, feel free to send us suggestions, and we might even, we'll take them all into consideration.
All right, Skyblaze, you've been gone for most of the year on Walkabout. So, but what is something that you would have liked to have done an episode about?
Yeah, similar to Kat, I was spent some of the year being mostly dead, including a spate of surgery. That was great fun. My brain isn't working. I did have an idea, and it's now kind of flittered away into the ether. Gone like the wind.
Excuse me.
Maybe a thing about, because it was it's the Dreamcast 20th anniversary this year, so something about that would have been nice to do.
All right, well, that would have been a fun show. But nothing saying that we can't do it in 2019. For me, and this is probably going to be a bit of a surprise to people, I actually would not have minded doing a show on Venom. But that one got pushed off to the side because at the time that it came out, there were so many other things that were more worth talking about than Venom.
Hey, what do you guys think, glorious listeners? Was there anything you wanted us to do a show about that we didn't?
Yes, indeed. So,
the answer is probably yes. So tell us what you would like to have seen.
Yes, go ahead and send in send in your input on stuff that you'd like to have us talk about. Once again, as always, the email address is drgonzo@nerdtothethirdpower.com. That's also where you send your Ask a Geek questions. So go ahead and get those sent in, and who knows, maybe your question will get talked about in the air, or we might just pick your suggested topic. Maybe that's a thing. We'll make a regular thing. We'll do maybe once a month. We'll do a listener suggested topic.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. So
if presuming we get enough.
All right. Well, maybe something to put up on the Facebook. All right, and that's all the Ask Geek questions that we have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending them in. And now at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kat and Skyblaze as they discuss She-Ra and the Princess of Power. And I'm going to go take a shot of NyQuil and try not to die because this cold is just kicking my ass. So, girls, you go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Gonzo. Rest in peace. Thanks, Gonzo.
The show is ours.
If we had beards, we'd stroke them.
I know, right?
Yes. So, Skyblaze, I'm assuming you watched all of the new She-Ra cartoon.
Well, of course.
Okay, and I watched it almost all of it twice, because I did want to, rewatch it when we said, oh yeah, we want to talk about She-Ra. So I went through and I rewatched, maybe 8 or so episodes, just to keep them fresh in my mind. And then I thought, man, how does this compare to the original? And that's something that we can get into later. So, Skyblaze, first thoughts.
When I first saw the still images, it was like, I wasn't sure what to think, because it was like, it's a great idea, and the creators were saying all the right things, but then the images were like, it's a bit flat and it looks a bit simplistic, so it was a bit I'm not sure about this. And then the first trailer dropped and it was like, this looks so much better in motion. Stills do it no good at all, do absolutely no favors. It looks so much better and more fluid and more interesting when it's moving.
I would 100% agree. I was kind of in the same boat when the stills first came out, and I thought, okay, this is different. It's clearly got that inspiration. We're in a new generation of cartoons where the most popular stuff, it sort of has this sort of, it's following this trend of animation where it kind of looks like it's in that category of Steven Universe and a couple of other things that all kind of have this same simplistic.
It's kind of minimalist, isn't it?
And yeah, it's kind of simplistic. It's got a more, I almost want to say a more delicate color palette. I don't know that that's not. I don't think that's necessarily true, but that's kind of where my brain went. Is the colors are much softer. And very simple lines, more simple character designs. But when you really look at it, it's not even that simplistic or anything, because if you think about the original She-Ra, my God, that was some simplistic stuff because everybody looked exactly the same.
It was all the same character models with different hairstyles. The more you look at it, the more embarrassing it becomes. And
truly,
I know why it is. It's because Filmation, the studio that made it, were working on the budget of a pocket full of lint and half a shoestring.
On a good day.
I know, right? You see the same problem if you look at some of the other stuff it did, things like Brave Star and the Star Trek animated series. They actually got like more of a budget with the Star Trek animated series than they did almost any of their other series, and it's kind of painful because everybody knows how terrible the Star Trek animated series was in terms of animation.
Yeah. So I was initially a little bit hesitant because I thought, oh, it's just gonna, or more, I was afraid maybe that it would just follow the trend of, it seems like a lot of cartoons are just sort of being lumped in with Steven Universe now with that simplistic style and everything. And, you know, would it have the right amount of substance, and would it have everything a She-Ra fan really needs? And I don't even know that I think I did watch the first trailer, but I think I watched it pretty late, and I was like, okay, this doesn't look so bad. But I didn't even come close to getting a clue of what the actual depth of the story was going to be, because it really went on some twists and turns that I didn't see coming, and it went in so many new directions from the original show that I was just so
really
impressed with every part of the story.
Ever since because I watched the original series when I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure I have a couple of years on you, Kat. So I remember it fairly well, compared to a lot of my, including my husband, who doesn't remember it well because he's younger than me. Yeah, he was born in 87, I was born in 83.
You're not that much older than me. I was born in 85.
Oh, so there's just a couple, yeah. But I had a couple of She-Ra episodes on video, and I remember it fairly vividly. One of the things that always kind of annoyed me about the original series was that the whole thing about Adora being raised by the Horde was almost immediately forgotten once they got past the pilot episode, and it was never really brought up again. And it was like, you could have done so much with this. It's like, why has this never been brought up? The fact that she was effectively raised by Shadow Weaver and Hordak. Wouldn't this cause some sort of conflict at any point? And this new series has taken that and run with it. And really explored the interpersonal problems and the conflicts that would come with that sort of a defection.
Yeah, I was literally raised on the He-Man She-Ra crossover, so it's like the first 4 or 5 episodes of She-Ra are the crossover with He-Man, and I had a video where, like a video cassette of where that was combined into like a movie format. And that might have been all I ever had of She-Ra. And I must have watched it about 1 million times, to the point where when I rewatched it the other day, I could still recite the dialogue. It was actually kind of embarrassing. Like, my roommate was looking at me kind of funny because it was one of the few videotapes I had growing up, so I watched it 1 million times like I did Disney films. To me, it was the same thing. And it was so cool. And on reflection, I think the whole concept of being raised and doing evil and then realizing that you're bad and addressing it throughout your series was done much better than the original 80s series by Xena Warrior Princess.
There's more
because
than a
when
few
you
nods
think
in the
about it,
Xena in that new series.
Yeah. So I was thinking the other day, I was like, Xena did this so much better. And then watching the new She-Ra, it's actually outstanding how well it was done. So just to give everybody who might not remember what She-Ra is about, or doesn't know the new series and needs to hear what the new synopsis is, Skyblaze, will you give us the plot of She-Ra?
So Adora is she was an orphan child, as far as we're aware, who was taken in and raised by the quote-unquote evil Horde, specifically their lead sorceress, Shadow Weaver. She has a best friend / surrogate sister called Catra, and they are both trying to go for a high rank in the Horde. Adora ends up in the Whispering Woods, where the rebellion is based, and the Princess Rebellion, and these princesses have been depicted by the Horde have depicted the princesses as these incredibly dangerous, wild, crazy individuals who can't control their powers and will destroy the planet, and the Horde is trying to stop them to save the planet. And this is the propaganda that Adora has been brought up in. She finds a magical sword that turns her into a 7-foot-tall Amazon warrior, referred to as She-Ra, and is subsequently found by some agents of the rebellion, Glimmer and Bow. Glimmer herself is a princess. And then she goes on a long journey of discovery, slowly realizing that the Horde that she's grown up to admire and serve is not the good guys that have been depicted to her. Does that more or less sum it up?
That's about it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where to take this conversation next, because usually Gonzo's the one who steers our conversations.
So we've discussed the animation, we've discussed the kind of initial reaction to it. We've gotten a bit into the story. Do we want to go further? Because I know one of the things I noticed was that it, in terms of pacing and the way that the arc of the season was laid out, owed a lot more to anime than it did to Western animation in a lot of ways.
Yeah, actually, we could talk about that, because I heard some complaints online, people saying that they didn't like the beginning of She-Ra because they thought it was very strangely paced, that it was a little on the slow side, but I didn't get that feeling at all. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's because I'm so used to watching anime all the time that I'm used to this sort of episodic nature of, like a princess of the day or a monster of the day kind of format.
But anime tends to kind of very slowly, kind of dribs and drabs of larger story will be put into the background of these Monster of the Week stories. And that's more or less what She-Ra was doing. The pacing actually reminded me a bit of things like Dot Hack Sign, which did do this exact thing, where it took about half a season before it actually really got up to speed. And it was in like episode 6 where everything goes straight to hell.
Yeah.
And you're like, sat there going, oh.
What's great is that the plot really accelerates on what you would think is set up as kind of a silly filler episode. So what we're talking about is the early episodes start with, kind of introducing a new character or a new place or like a new princess or whatever every episode. And then we get to what is called Princess Prom, where it's a gathering of all the princesses of Etheria, and they're all supposed to get together and have like a little day, and everything goes to shit after that, because the whole thing is sabotaged by Catra and Scorpia, and Bow and Glimmer are kidnapped, and all the princesses have to get together after that to mount a rescue mission, and that goes really poorly because none of them know how to work together, and it is made to appear that maybe one of the characters dies, and that character kind of accidentally ends up joining the Horde. And it kind of gets dark after that, and it's not a very long show at all. So for it to hit the ground running at what appears to be a very frivolous kind of silly episode where they're all getting done up in party dresses or in Catra's case like a really awesome suit, it seems like that should be a very silly episode.
Okay, since we've touched on it a bit,
gets pretty dark after that.
The thing of like Catra being in the awesome tuxedo. Shall we talk a bit about being subversive and queer content in this?
Yeah, I mean, because obviously that's such a large part of it.
The subtext between Catra and Adora it's very large for subtext. It's in 25-point font. I'm just saying.
It's like in the glowing neon sign.
I know, right? Especially in the Princess Prom episode where they have that dance.
Oh yes. Hey Adora. Everything just hey Adora. Yeah. So it is a really great show for, obviously, like, this was made for there to be represenation of the LGBT community, and
there's an actual
a lot
explicit female pairing.
Yes, yes, and especially if you look around the Princess Prom, there are a lot of like cute gay couples everywhere. I saw screen caps, and then I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Now I rewatched that episode for a third time to catch it. But there's a lot of stuff that's left. There's a lot of maybe, like you said, there's a lot of subtext, and part of it is because they're not going overt with any sort of most of the pairings that you can imagine. And I read an interview with Noelle Stevenson, who is basically the creator of the new She-Ra, and she kind of explained that they're young. They're not as old as they are in the original show. They're like in the 16-ish
They're still
age,
figuring stuff out.
and most of them, so they're still young. They're still learning about themselves and, what they want. So there isn't going to be a lot of overt pairings and traditional romances in this. Even as much as we want to see it, there probably won't be that much, just because they're young and there's a war going on and there's a lot going on with themselves, and they're discovering who they are and where they fit in and everything. And I think that's really actually quite nice, especially for a first season. If they go a little bit further with it in the second season, that'd be pretty cool too. But for them to just introduce a bunch of character, I think it wouldn't have made too much sense to just, throw a bunch of romantic angles into it. That's why the subtext is quite nice.
Adora and Catra thing, it makes perfect sense in terms of story, where they're taking the arc of these characters. And that subtext actually adds another dimension to it, which makes it even more compelling, to me, anyway.
Oh yeah, and again, none of this existed. Most of this didn't exist in the original series. Catra was just another, one-trick villain who could, turn into a giant cat and had a really obnoxious voice.
The voice was irritating.
Oh my god. And for them to add so much care, I don't know why they singled out on Catra, other than that she was probably the most visually interesting of the villains.
I do know why. In the original toy line, she was actually meant to be the main villain.
Oh, okay.
There
Sure. So they chose Catra of all people to become the most interesting and compelling of the villains. Aside from, I guess, Shadow Weaver would be the second most, and she's a bundle of mystery herself. So as long as we're digging this deep, let's talk a bit about the characters.
Oh, sure.
Since obviously we started talking about Catra, who is absolutely a joy to watch, because she's confident yet insecure. She's
a bundle of contradictions in an awful lot of ways.
Yeah, and yet she's always entertaining. She's, oh god, I just love her so much. It's so hard to describe my love of Catra.
Scorpia is a cinnamon roll and must be protected from all harm.
Oh my god, when Scorpia comes in and just grabs Catra and goes, "Kitty, just so you know, I'm a hugger," and I'm like, oh my god. This is the best universe.
I want to marry you.
What has everyone been calling her? Their new favorite tall wife.
I know.
She's so great. And even for as little screen time as Scorpia got, they already made her an interesting and compelling character. They went into the fact that Scorpia is actually a princess and has a rune stone. And her kingdom was invaded by the Horde, and
there's a lot of
allied
interesting backstory going on there. It's so did they surrender and hand over the runestone so they didn't all die? Did they make an alliance first? There's a lot of questions that haven't quite been answered.
And for somebody like Scorpia, who, as we said, is a huge cinnamon roll, she's very sweet and friendly, but also very tough and kind of butch, you know? She's like, again, a bunch of contradictions from her personality to her visuals. It's such an interesting thing to have somebody like that in the evil horde. And I think they could do a lot of cool stuff with that in the future. And Shadow Weaver, again, as long as we're villain back, Shadow Weaver's kind of interesting, especially after we've done so many shows now on Voltron. And like, I don't know if you're caught up in Voltron, but is Shadow Weaver the new Hagar? What?
Shadow Weaver's always a really compelling character, even in the original series, because there's even in the original, there's a lot of tantalizing hints about her past and who she used to be, the whole Light Weaver thing, or Light Spinner.
Light Spinner, yeah.
What happened? What made you go in this direction? Why go from light to dark? I don't get it, and I really want to know.
And also the idea that was kind of presented in the original series, but never really honed in, because again, as soon as Adora leaves the Horde, it's never really brought up again. But in the original and in the new one, Shadow Weaver is sort of a mother figure to Adora, and it's stated in the new series that Shadow Weaver found her as a baby and basically brought her to the Horde and raised her.
Why does she want Adora back so very badly? What is it that she wants from Adora?
There's so many really excellent questions going on, and that can bring us straight to Adora, the main character here, our She-Ra, because there is a whole lot of unexplained stuff going on with her. They don't have an origin story for her yet, other than that she was raised in the Horde. We don't know why she was raised in the Horde, or really, like, it's indicated that her sword is where she gets her power and everything, but all of the magic and stuff of the first one's technology that she can utilize. And I've been thinking about this for like a couple weeks now, but she still uses for the honor of Grayskull, and she asks, "What's Grayskull?" And we never get an answer.
And there's also the fact that the password of Eternia.
Yes. So exactly. So they're giving hints as to that, Eternia probably exists out there somewhere, and maybe that's. Maybe there is a Castle Grayskull somewhere in an Eternia somewhere, and hopefully we'll get to that in the future, because there's all these mysteries still surrounding Adora. And as we said at the onset, one of the most interesting parts about Adora's character is the fact that they continually go back and address the fact that she was raised in an evil army, and she kind of has some issues because of it. She doesn't socialize the same way other people do. There's a lot of stuff that she just has never heard of or doesn't understand that we would take for granted, like parties and what an aunt is. She's never seen a horse. She doesn't know what aunt means. Like crazy stuff that we would just take for granted. She's never seen. And like the first time she sees the horse and her eyes are just sparkling and she's like, "What is that? That's the most majestic thing I've ever seen." Like, you just immediately love her character, because obviously she's very at first very defensive about the Horde, even though we as the audience know it's really evil. But it's understandable, from her point of view, and it's a very, very easy to see things from her point of view as a member of the Horde, and then how quickly she slips away from that, and all of the contention it causes with her old comrades. And she's still trying to bring Catra to the good side, because she knows right from wrong. And Catra just kind of, she's not evil, I'd say, because I think Catra, it's more like Catra doesn't care. Catra, kind of, after Adora's gone, Adora was her like moral center, And, you know, with Adora's betrayal, you know, I think Ketra's just looking for power at this point so that she can protect herself, because she's got no one else to look out for her now. So again, really interesting dynamic with two really, really amazing characters. And I like the concept of She-Ra as a title that more than one person has had in his.
Yeah, and the conversation that she has with Madame Raz, who may or may not be insane, may or may not be a time traveler, may or may not be immortal. We know so little about her. You keep doing this to me, show.
Yeah, they sure gave us a lot of information for such a short number of episodes, and but they left out so much. And definitely Madame Raz is one of them, because Madame Raz keeps referring to Adora as Mara.
Who it's confirmed later was the previous She-Ra, who, as far as we can tell, went mad or went evil or
something. And that was like
terrible happened to her.
1,000 years ago. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I really like She-Ra as a concept, where She-Ra is just not, the superhero who shows up, but she's like a fable character, where people have passed down stories and legends about her. They constantly refer to her as the She-Ra. Yeah. Not like a She-Ra, but the She-Ra. It's kind of interesting, that concept. I really like it. I like the idea, the history behind the superhero version, basically.
Yeah, and the fact that the magic is combined with technology, and it's kind of implied that there's been a bit of a backsliding of the technology level on Etheria is also pretty interesting. It's like, what happened? Who are the first ones? Were they Eternians? There's so many questions, and it's so interesting in terms of where you can go with the world building.
Yeah. And then what did you think about Bow and Glimmer? Because obviously there was a lot of controversy about, because of the designs were so different from the original. Although, let's be fair, as long as Bow had a midriff, right?
Yep. It's that line in Princess Prom where he tears off the cummerbund, then he's like, no, cold now.
And then he has to go get it again because it's getting cold.
Yeah. Bow is so much like a D&D bard.
Oh my god, yes he is! Oh my god.
And I love that, because it's not a character archetype you see that often in cartoons like this. Or if they are, they're reduced to being purely a comedy character. He's actually depicted as being really very competent and very good with the role that he's taken.
I do love his confidence, because he is one guy in a sea of princesses, and he has no issue with that. Like, for him, that's pretty normal. And he's very supportive of everybody. He's the one who's always yelling about how awesome friendship is and everything. It's very unusual to see this as a male character. Like, you could totally see a female character who's like
he doesn't feel the need to pull anyone back down to his level. He's like, you are all exactly the way you are. It is my job to try and be as good as you are.
Yeah, he's actually kind of like if you fused Sokka and Aang from Avatar. He's got that energy level, and he's super hyper and his friends and everything. But he's also sort of the odd man out who doesn't have any superpowers. He's not a princess, and everybody kind of outshines him, like magically. But he still like holds his own and can do his own thing. That makes him part of the team, and nobody ever doubts him or anything like that, and he never really doubts himself either, which is a really big deal also, to me. Like, it's a great message.
It's also that he gets people, and he understands. He's usually the one who explains to Adora. It's like, no, this is how emotions work, and this is why they feel the way that they do. and this is how people will react if they are raised not by wolves.
Yeah,
it's so often, as you were saying about, it's so rarely a male character that ends up doing that, and I love that he does this, and it's not seen as anything demeaning. It's like so valued by the other character.
Yeah, he's sort of the mom friend almost.
Yeah, he is a bit.
He's kind of the mom friend where he's looking out for everyone there, wants to make sure everyone's taken care of, and then when strays from sanity, he's the one who's like, "What are you doing?"
That conversation where Glimmer's powers aren't working, and Glimmer's like, "Maybe if you jab me with the sword," and he's like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?"
Am I the only one here who's good sword safety? He's definitely a mom friend. And gosh, there were so many really great characters. I really liked.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Okay. The parallels of the relationship between Glimmer and her mother and Catra and Shadow Weaver.
Oh,
And that kind of mirror, the dark mirror effect.
Oh my god! Yes, I didn't think of that before. But like Shadow Weaver,
have to go back and watch the episodes again.
But yeah, because Shadow Weaver raised both Catra and Adora, and it's only brought up a little bit, and particularly by Hordak, who was like, "Is Catra not your ward as well?" And Shadow Weaver's like, "Fuck Catra." Poor Catra. So Catra always grew up basically unloved by her maternal figure, and was always in the shadow of Adora, and Catra never got the proper attention, love, or anything that she needed to be a sane individual, so to speak. Whereas Glimmer has this opposite thing where her father died, and so her mother was very scared of anything ever happening to Glimmer. So her mother was very overprotective, and she's an only child, so there was nobody else to throw Angela's attention on. Hey, that's absolutely amazing. I see that before. Yeah, definitely have to rewatch the whole thing again.
You're welcome.
Oh no, what a terrible thing.
How long have we been doing this anyway? It's like nearly 12:30 where I am.
I don't know. We can speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, we could probably do this all day, to be fair.
Yes, we
We've
can.
got
hours.
we've got like another 10 minutes before we'll have been going for an hour.
Okay.
Right, so we should probably start to do. We'll very quickly do Glimmer, and then we'll do a sum up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could roll through a couple more characters because Hawk.
So Glimmer, she is the one who's like, you were saying about Xena, she is so the Gabrielle.
Yes, 100%.
She's the one who's like, yes, let's go and do the thing, and Sana brains are going like, no, that is not going to work.
What was her line about sparkle fist to face negotiations thing? She's got a lot of pep. She's got a lot of fire. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this series compared to the original is that their powers, because they're much younger in this version, their powers are really, I don't want to say unstable, but they're a little bit unstable. They're still young, they're still learning how to use their powers and everything. And I think that makes Glimmer kind of interesting to me, because she doesn't quite nail it all the time. That's a very human thing. That just if you rewatch the original in terms of, He-Man and She-Ra's powers and the powers of any one of their powers are ridiculous. And one of the complaints that I've heard is that, well, She-Ra isn't as strong in the new one as she was in the old one. I'm like, well, yeah, if if the new one just decided that whatever needed to happen as one of her powers on any given day, she would be OP as well.
Yeah.
But they wanted the powers to make more sense. They wanted them to be slightly more, I don't want to say realistic because it's fucking magic powers, but it makes more sense that they don't have full control of it. They haven't fully explored all of their powers. And Glimmer is a very good reflection of
certainly implied
that
a couple
instability.
Of times that Glimmer's powers are not that impressive at the moment because her power hasn't fully matured. Whether or not that's to do with her connection to the runestone or her age or who knows.
And
or
it's the same.
Just that she hasn't practiced it enough.
Yeah, and it's very similar with She-Ra, where Light Hope can teach her more if she just stays and trains forever and ever and ever. So, like, we get the sense that nobody that we know of so far is exerting the full capacity of their powers, because it can only grow, especially with all the princesses working together, all their rune stones in harmony and everything. It's going to be some serious magic next season.
Yeah, Super Rainbow Power Go.
Yeah, very much so. It's a big gold Care Bear.
It was great.
So what else can we talk about?
Angela, actually, I found a much more interesting figure in this.
Yeah.
She is specifically said she is an angelic divine immortal being in this one, and I don't think that was specified in the original.
Yeah, I mean she had the angel wings.
Yeah.
But I don't know about immortal and all that other stuff.
It's also cute that when you see Glimmer's back when she's in the hot spring, she has like tiny little vestigial wings.
I know, it was so cute.
I have to wonder, are those going to stay that size, or will they develop into proper wings at some point?
Maybe.
That would be pretty cool.
I
That'd be a
really
cool power upgrade thing.
Yeah, next season, man. For other characters, I mean, like, they introduced so many great characters, but Mermista, my god.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Because never have I seen a character played by Aubrey Plaza in a live action than Mista. She's sarcastic, she's rude, she's pretty apathetic to a lot of stuff.
We can't talk about Mermista without talking about Seahawk, though.
I know! Oh my god, Seahawk was so great, because if you with Seahawk in it, I actually just watched the Seahawk episode like 2 nights ago where Seahawk first comes in the original, and he's like this pirate who's really like not that impressive.
Yeah, in the original series, he's really boring.
Yeah, he's kind of sexist, but he has like a noble streak to him. And here they made such a goofball. And here's the guy in the show who has a lot of self-doubt because he thinks very highly of himself, and then he comes across this crazy crew of teenagers who are infinitely better at everything than him, and all of a sudden he doubts himself. And I just thought it was really interesting because he's obviously older than them and confident, but they just immediately shatter all of that.
I don't know how much of that confidence was really a facade, though, especially since he kind of said, yeah, I did have a crew, they're gone.
True.
But yeah, there's a lot of things, and Froster in the original was so dull. It's like, I am the Frost Princess. That's it.
Yep.
In the new one, it's like, you're 10. Yeah, way to put your foot in your mouth. Nice one, Adora.
Yeah.
Back to the raised by wolves comment here.
I really liked Frosta's original design.
Oh yeah, I loved the design.
She looked like an X-Men, to be honest. She kind of looked like Storm with an ice theme. And so I immediately was like, I don't know if... And then I realized she's just a member of the Northern Water Tribe. If we could make any more Avatar: The Last Airbender, but she really is. She really looks like she's from the Water Tribe. And then she's kind of like very stern for someone who's so young. And she's very reluctant. She's very comfortable in her bubble, so to speak. And when she does finally come out of it, you're like, oh my god, you just like, you cheer because you're so excited that there was that bit of development for Frosta, considering how little of it she's in.
I just want to very quickly talk about Entrapta.
Yes! Oh my god, Entrapta.
She's one of my favorites because she has no idea what's going on, and that makes she's incredibly, blindingly brilliant, but she's also naive in the way that makes her very easy to manipulate with the simplest of tactics, which is exactly what Catra does.
Yeah, and it's so
and
interesting.
In the original, Entrapta was a straight up villain.
Yeah, was she a bad guy turned good, maybe?
I can't remember.
I feel like I read that she was originally for the Horde. And if that is true, then they flipped it for this. Entrapta is a princess, but she's not a princess who actually uses magic. She uses technology, so she doesn't have a rune stone. But she's still a princess. She's friends with everybody, and goes on this mission to rescue Bo and Glimmer, and then ends up almost, it looks like she dies, and she is convinced, as she is captured by the Horde, that her friends are going to come back for her, but her friends all thought that she was dead. So then she realizes, or she thinks that she's been abandoned, but she doesn't really care that much because the Horde provides such wonderful opportunities for her experiments. And it's so easy for Catra and them to manipulate Entrapta because all Entrapta cares about is inaction. And that's a really interesting type of character to introduce in a show that has such morally ambivalent characters. There's a lot of people who sort of walk that line of good or bad, on one side or the other. And here's Entrapta, a princess, friends with, who is doing terrible things, but she doesn't really put it together. She's just sort of there for invention, and I don't even know that she realizes what she's doing.
Yeah, certainly one of the more interesting, compelling things about this series is what they're doing with the characters and the arcs that all the characters have. And they do all have arcs, which is something there's nobody who's really ignored, per se. Which I like.
Yeah, even the side characters have a little bit of change. So, with all of that, what are our predictions for the next season? We've kind of talked about it a little bit through the episode, but it is getting a second season. Don't know when it's going to drop, but obviously there's so much that happened in just one season, but there's so many unanswered questions. What are you thinking is going to happen next season?
I think we're going to see the return of the Revenge of Shadow Weaver.
Yes!
I think we're going to see Hordak taking a more active role. And I think the princesses are going to try and, or are going to either try and recruit, or she herself is going to make the decision to defect in terms of Scorpia.
Yes! Okay, so we're totally on the... I believe that we will see a flashback of Shadow Weaver when she turns to evil, because that would be incredible. I do think Hordak will take more hands-on approach. I think we're going to see a bit more of Catra trying to impress Hordak and manipulating things on her own, because she's obviously getting good at that. I don't know if we'll see Entrapta come back to the Princess Alliance, or if Entrapta will stay where she's at. I think it's really a toss-up with her because she is chaotic neutral. Yeah. And I don't know if it'll happen, but I would love to see Scorpia move over to the princesses because she is a princess, and I really feel like what is her stone, the Black Garnet? I feel like that's going to become a major plot point of the next season, because the Horde having that is like obviously like a sort of power for them, and it would be to the benefit of the Princess Alliance to get that out of the Fright Zone. And I think it would be really interesting, even if Scorpia doesn't necessarily turn on the Horde, but for her to spend time with the other princesses and Adora for her to realize what actual friendship looks like, and to see how other people are living under the boot of the Horde, much like her own family did. I think that'll be really cool. I'm hoping we'll get some more Adora backstory.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because I think they're going to have to start answering some questions about where they're getting Eternia and Grayskull. And,
oh, yes, certainly the wider world building, would say.
Yeah. I would 1000% love if they brought in Adam and He-Man and Eternia. Like, I don't necessarily need another show, like another series or anything, but I think it would make a good... Like, if you watch the new Supergirl and the frequency that they bring in Superman, that's what I want. I want just a once in a while for a couple of episodes, let's go over to Eternia or have someone from hang out and just bring up the concepts of He-Man and Adora. You know, we don't know if in this universe she has an identical twin brother or not, but it would be really cool if she did.
All right, guys, well, we're kind of running on the end of the clock here. So what are your guys' final thoughts on She-Ra and the Princesses of Power?
It's a really great series. I know there are people out there hesitant about it, either because it's just not going to meet their expectations for those rose-colored glasses that they have about the 80s show, which really was not that great when you look back on it, or because they don't like the style or whatever, but it's really worth a watch. It's such a great, it's entertaining and wholesome. And I can't say that word enough. It's very wholesome. I've heard so many stories of people showing this to their kids, and their kids are going to take away these wonderful messages that the show has to offer, that the original was a product of its time. And it is definitely time for a new show that can teach great lessons while being entertaining and inspiring. It's really great. And also, good luck to everybody who is cosplaying from it, because that is really fun, and you all are going to have a lot of fun
Skyblaze, what about you?
From it.
I think it's taken a lot of the good characters and the concepts and the ideas from the original show and run with them in some really interesting directions. Certainly in terms of character, it's one of its major strengths is the strength of its characters and the character arcs that it's building, and the suggestions of the wider world building are also really, really interesting. Having some of these questions answered is really compelling viewing to me. I'm looking forward to season 2, and I think it's definitely worth checking out if you are a fan of animation in general. The pacing can be difficult to get used to if you are more used to the faster paced Western cartoon style. If you're a fan of anime, it probably won't be that unusual to you. But stick with it up until at least episode 6 or 7.
All right. Well, it sounds like She-Ra is a neat little show and definitely worth checking out. So that's She-Ra and the Princess of Power on Netflix. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. And so with that, that's about all the time that we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. So thank you as always for tuning in. We will see you guys next week, where we will be introducing a new co-host on the show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
I'm Skyblaze.
We will see you guys next week. Taka, play us out.